riding the range as the man with no name, or policing the streets as Dirty Harry, Clint Eastwood is a heroic force to be reckoned with on this episode of Superstars of Action.
Clint Eastwood is one of Hollywood's greatest living legends. Like Humphrey Bogart and John Wayne before him, Eastwood's tough, no-nonsense characters live by their own personal code. In a classic Clint Eastwood film, things get done only one way. Clint's way.
When I was a little kid watching Westerns, I hated Westerns that had little kids in them. I liked Westerns where, you fantasize with being the hero.
1993 was a climatic year in the memorable career of actor-director Clint Eastwood. His Best Director Oscar for the critically acclaimed Unforgiven brought this popular star long overdue credit from his professional peers. For Eastwood's many fans around the world, the Academy Award was a fitting tribute to the legendary audience-pleasing heroes that Clint Eastwood has brought to the screen for over 4 decades.
When I grew up as a kid, there was no television and there was Westerns galore. It was always the A Westerns and then a lot of the B Westerns too, Rod Cameron's and Randolph Scott. People would make a series of them. Some of them quite good, some of them various degrees. But I used to like the Anthony Mann Westerns a lot that he made with James Stewart. I thought some of those were very nice. But High Noon, all those were great entertainment along the way.
Film critic and author Michael Medved.
Eastwood has an interesting background. He really is a working class guy. He really was in the service. He really is sort of a middle American kind of guy. And people respond to that. And, he really seems like the kind of guy you could have a few beers with.
Eastwood began his acting career in the mid-1950s, appearing in a number of low-budget B-movies. Such films did little to reveal Eastwood's untapped potential as a powerful leading man.
Vince could see my sincerity is to accept his challenge, regardless of the risk that it entails.
Sir, you're imputing motives the Cochise doesn't even understand. Why, he's nothing but a bloodthirsty savage.
It may be something of a shock to you, Lieutenant, to learn that Cochise thinks exactly the same about you.
Whether a film does well or doesn't, there's a certain amount of fate involved with that. You can only go by your judgment on things, and a lot of it's out of your hands. You just do the best you can, and if you continue to do the best you can, eventually, maybe you'll get in sync with something that everybody finds appealing.
Starring role in the long-running hit television series Rawhide. The public finally took notice of Eastwood as the young Rowdy Yates. During a break in the Rawhide shooting schedule, Eastwood went to Spain to work with director Sergio Leone on a film called The Magnificent Stranger. Retitled A Fistful of Dollars, the film was a huge success in Europe and made Eastwood an international movie star. A year later, Eastwood teamed again with Leone to shoot the sequel for a few dollars more. American moviegoers were still unaware of Eastwood's popularity overseas.
For a few dollars more and The Good, Bad, the Ugly has started with an idea. Then I've been working with Sergio Leone and the writers to develop the script. Once the script was ready, we would discuss it with Clint. He would read it, he would make his observations.
In 1966, Rawhide reached the end of the TV trail. Rawhide's cancellation allowed Eastwood to ride once again as the man with no name in Sergio Leone's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
When Westerns were pronounced dead, just prior to my participation in the Italian-made ones that I made with Sergio Leone in the early to mid-'60s. And then those came on, and they did rather well because it was kind of a new style, a new approach at the old American genre. But There's always room for a great story, regardless of what genre it's in.
For me. 5 for you. And 5 for me. Know how much you're worth now?
No, how much?
$3,000.
There are two kinds of people in the world, my friend. Those with a rope around their neck and the people who have the job of doing the cutting. Listen, the neck at the end of the rope is mine. I run the risks. So the next time I want more than half.
You may run the risks, my friend, but I do the cutting. We cut down my percentage. Cigar? Liable to interfere with my aim.
He's a smart man, and he has been always careful to choose the right project. Consequently, his movies, the stories have been always interesting. His performance has been always interesting. He has directed himself, and he has proven to be a good director. And that's the secret, not so secret, of his success.
In 1967, Leone's popular Eastwood trilogy was finally released in the United States. Seemingly overnight, Clint Eastwood became a leading U.S. box office attraction.
You know, he was a huge box office star, very, very popular. But he was treated with less respect than Schwarzenegger gets today. You go back and look at the reviews for a lot of his early films, some of them which are now people are looking at as classics, you know, High Plains Drifter, Outlaw Josie Wales. And generally, he was just derided. It was considered to be mindless garbage. And people just didn't get it. The audience got it.
Over the next few years, Eastwood made a powerful impression in tough macho action films like Coogan's Bluff and Kelly's Heroes.
The Tiger is an open country tank. We happen to have these in a small town with narrow streets, and we do have the element of surprise.
Yeah.
Nobody's asking you to be a hero.
No? Then you sit up in that turret, baby.
No, because you're going to be up there, baby, and I'll be right outside showing you which way to go.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm crazy. I mean, like, so many positive ways. Maybe we can't lose. You're on.
Eastwood made an impressive directorial debut with Play Misty for Me. Eastwood starred as a late-night disc jockey stalked by a fatally attracted female fan. Screenwriter Dean Reisner wrote Play Misty for Me.
Clint did things that I thought you shouldn't do, and I was wrong. Clint would hit girls and do outrageous things that I felt, you know, being up from television and all that, I thought, heroes don't act that way. He said, oh yes, they do, and he did, and he got away with it. He always got away with outrageous stuff that I thought you couldn't possibly get away with.
Eastwood's next film introduced one of the most popular action movie characters of all time, Detective Harry Callahan, better known as Dirty Harry. Super cool Eastwood was perfectly cast in the role of a hard-boiled San Francisco detective who was not afraid to take the law into his own hands. Screenwriter Dean Reisner created the unforgettable character of Dirty Harry Callahan.
A guy named Harry Julian Fink had written the original story of Dirty Harry, and Dirty Harry was really dirty. He was a real old slob, and they wanted Walter Matthau to play it, as a matter of fact. And something went wrong with that project, and Frank Sinatra got a hold of it. Frank was going to do it, and he got a rewrite from a good writer and put it in San Francisco, and he had a different kind of a show.
Screenwriter John Milius.
John Calley, who was the head of Warner Brothers at the time, liked me because I was a fast, cheap, good writer. You know, cheap was one of the main things, and so he said, we have this meeting on this project, this detective film with Frank Sinatra, and we have to do it in a month. Can you write this in a month? And I said, I guess so. So I did, and it became Dirty Harry.
Dirty Harry defined Eastwood's tough-as-nails persona. Dirty Harry's brand of vigilante justice struck a raw nerve in audiences worldwide.
Clint had a sense that the character that he was playing, Dirty Harry, was going to turn out to be something rather special.
I've had some over the year that did well at the box office and maybe wasn't received by reviewers particularly well, or maybe it's a small, sort of a personal film that doesn't really translate into the general public, or it's a subject that maybe a reviewer might find interesting, but the movie-going public is not particularly interested in. But this one seemed to hit the combination.
In 1975, Eastwood directed and starred in the espionage thriller The Iger Sanction. Producer, David Brown.
Clint Eastwood, at the time of the Iger Sanction, already was making movies for his own immortal soul, so to speak. I think Play Misty, for me, came along about that time. He was always interested in other than the usual genre stuff, even then. And Clint Eastwood was a big star then, as he is now. Clint automatically assured an audience. I believe just before the Iger Sanction, he may have made Dirty Harry, which was a huge hit. And so Clint was big then, but anyone who knows Clint Eastwood knows he's a quiet man with an intellectual bent and a very keen sense of values.
The popularity of Dirty Harry continued to grow, and Eastwood returned to the steely-eyed, stoic character in the 1976 film, The Enforcer.
Most actors are introverted type people who are using the facility of acting to bring themselves out. And you can do that just by the technique. The technique of acting, it puts you into a character or behind a character that allows you to express yourself.
What you doing, you pighead sucker?
Now you boys put those guns down.
Say what?
Well, we're not just gonna let you walk out of here.
Who's we, sucker?
Smith and Wesson and me. Go ahead. Make my day.
Clint Eastwood looks good holding a gun, and he squints well. But I think that Clint Eastwood speaks to our frustration there. He does what we all want to do. He cuts the Gordian knot.
With Dirty Harry, Eastwood created one of those rare film characters whose impact is felt in everyday life.
And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
Strong, brave, and fearless, Dirty Harry is unforgettable. The name Clint Eastwood usually conjures an image of cool, unflinching macho. Eastwood is the consummate filmmaking professional, a superstar without a typical Hollywood ego.
I surround myself with people who are extremely knowledgeable in their crafts, and I think that's the whole trick to it. If you have the best people with you, they make you look good.
Eastwood's commitment to his craft is total. When a fire broke out on the set of The Gauntlet in 1977, actor-director Eastwood jumped into the flames to rescue a burning camera. Such dedication is typical Eastwood. Eastwood's drive for perfection made for a natural transition to directing.
Clint's sets are so organized. They work really like the proverbial Swiss watch. And there's no drama in back of the camera. It's only in front of the camera.
You talk to actors, they love working with him because he's a very sensitive director, wants to bring out what the actors have to give, and he just has become, as I think he deserves to be, an American hero now, and certainly a hero in the Hollywood community. I would guess that the voting for Best Director and Best Picture with Unforgiven wasn't close, because Clint has become, he's paid his dues, he's become very well beloved But isn't it amazing that at this stage in his career, those were the first Oscar nominations, even, that this guy ever got?
By the time you release the film, you're so completely out of it. You've lived with it so long that it no longer sits in your mind like it did when you first read it and you first started preparing it. In fact, even when you're making a film, there's a halfway point of which you wonder, is this anything? And that happens almost every film you do. There's a certain point when you turn the picture over to the audience, and it's theirs however they want to interpret it.
And Eastwood scored a huge hit directing himself as the outlaw Josie Wales. Nancy Griffin is the West Coast editor of Premiere Magazine.
Clint Eastwood is really one of our major movie icons. All those westerns in which he played the lonely, mysterious stranger riding into town, having to take care of some bad situation, and then riding out again. You didn't know where he was going to go. He is in the Gary Cooper kind of tradition of the man who doesn't say very much, withholds, keeps his feelings pretty much to himself. And he's mysterious that way.
The critics and audiences responded to his versatility.
It's like a ground zero here.
Eastwood's 1992 film, Unforgiven, changed the image of the screen western forever. Cold, harsh, and brutal, Unforgiven is a modern film classic. Eastwood had mastered the role of director.
This particular subject matter in Unforgiven, the violence and the timing, I think, even though it's a timeless subject, I think the consequence of violence and the fact that it's not a beautiful thing and it's not a romantic thing as portrayed a lot of times in films is an important statement to make today.
Gotta finish him, Ned.
He ain't dead? Well, ain't you gonna shoot?
I ain't very good with one of these. Here, reload this.
You missed him.
I got him.
You think we killed him?
Yeah. We killed him, I guess.
I'm dying, boys! You murdering bastards! You killed our Davy boy!
Everyone, I guess, would like to get some sort of recognition for any kind of work they do, but I've been lucky in my career and had a nice career for a lot of years, and I can't think in terms of making a movie for what the end result is or some presentation down. I think that would be, if something like that ever happens in a person's life, I'm sure they're pleased, and most of the people who have received those, I think that's great, but you can't really think in terms of that. You have to address a career by making stories the way you want to do it, and where they fall remains to be seen. I'm doing a film where I'm just an actor, an employee, and that's a film called In Line of Fire. It's a little different. It's a Secret Service man who has buddies, but he's also got certain things he's trying to change in his life.
Horgan to Watts. I think Booth may be here.
I thought you couldn't identify him.
I can't. Just call it a hunch.
With all due respect to your psychic abilities, we'll stick to the game plan. All posts, take your positions.
You've got a fever, Frank.
Stay alert in there now, will you?
The President of the United States and the First Lady.
Gun! Get down! Get down! Get down! Get down!
All clear. All clear.
False alarm.
Traveler secure. All posts, resume positions.
I never like to get ahead of myself or presume that it might do well with the public, because you just don't know. You don't know what people are in the mood for. You hope so. You never make a film hoping it's going to have an empty house. But though I've had some box office luck over the years, I've never presumed ahead of time. I'm still always kind of nervous that first day, are people really going to go see this? Not going to hit a home run all the time, but sometimes you can still, I'm fond of saying, win the game with a base hit. But it is fun to knock one into the stands now and then.
In the years since Clint Eastwood first rode into America's living rooms on Rawhide, he has become one of the world's most popular movie stars. A true film legend, whether in front of or behind the camera, Clint Eastwood continues to be the rarest of commodities, a genuine hero. Until next time, see you at the movies.